Dad-perfect events. Never go to the ranch, Gary, promise me. Those words hit me like a sledgehammer when I found them in my brother Carl's handwriting, scrawled across a legal document I discovered in his desk drawer. I'm Gary Matthews, 58 years old, and I just became the most confused property owner in Alberta, Canada. 2 weeks after Carl's funeral, I was still trying to make sense of it all. My older brother, successful real estate mogul, always had his life together, had a massive heart attack at 61, no warning, just dropped dead in his Toronto office on a Tuesday morning. Left behind a mess I'm still untangling. The call from his lawyer, Kevin Walsh, pulled me out of my fog. Mr. Matthews, there's something about your brother's estate you need to know. Can you come to Calgary? I made the drive from my construction office in Edmonton thinking it was just paperwork. Standard stuff. Carl and I hadn't been close since Linda died 2 years ago. He thought I was wasting my life in construction while he played big shot with million-dollar deals. Walsh's office was all dark wood and expensive suits. Made me feel like I needed to dust off my work boots before sitting down. The place smelled like leather and money, with law books lining every wall from floor to ceiling. Walsh himself was one of those polished guys who probably ironed his underwear. Your brother purchased a property 3 years ago, Walsh said, sliding papers across his mahogany desk, Maple Creek Ranch. According to his instructions, you were only to be informed after his death. I stared at the deed, Gary Matthews, sole beneficiary. The papers felt heavy in my hands, official seals and notary stamps making it all look important and real. This has to be a mistake. Carl never mentioned any ranch. It gets more complicated. Walsh opened another file, this one thicker than a phone book. The property has significant lithium deposits. Energy companies have been making offers since the discovery 18 months ago. Your brother turned them all down. Lithium, I knew enough from my construction days to understand what that meant. Electric vehicle batteries, big money, really big money. The stuff was like gold these days, maybe better. How much are we talking? Conservative estimate. The mineral rights alone could be worth 15 million, maybe more if the deposits are as extensive as preliminary surveys suggest, 15 million. I'd been happy when my construction company cleared 200 grand in a good year. Now I was sitting in a lawyer's office hearing numbers that didn't compute with my blue-collar brain. My hands shook as I opened the envelope Carl had left for me. His precise handwriting filled 2 pages, the same careful script he'd used since we were kids doing homework at the kitchen table. Gary, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you're probably angry about the secrets. The ranch belonged to Linda's family. Her father lost it in bankruptcy when she was 16. She never got over it. You probably don't remember, but she cried the day they auctioned off her horses. I bought it back for her for you. I know I was hard on you after she died, but I was trying to honor her memory the only way I knew how. The ranch is beautiful now. Go see what I built. Carl, I sat there staring at the letter, feeling like I'd been sucker punched. Linda always talked about that ranch, her childhood home, the place where she learned to ride, where she painted watercolors of the prairie sunsets. Losing it broke something in her that never quite healed. She'd get this distant look sometimes, especially in the evening light, and I knew she was thinking about those Alberta skies she'd left behind. There's one more thing, Walsh said, his voice careful, like he was delivering bad news. Your other brothers are contesting the will. Alan and Steve claim Carl wasn't mentally competent when he purchased the property. Of course they were. Alan, the slick lawyer from Vancouver. Steve, the financial advisor from Calgary. They'd always resented Carl's success, but they'd really hate me inheriting anything valuable. To them, I was just the construction guy, the one who worked with his hands while they worked with their brains and other people's money. They have any grounds? Not legally, but with this much money involved. Walsh shrugged, a gesture that probably cost me $100 in billable time. Things can get complicated. Expensive. The drive to Maple Creek Ranch took me through 3 hours of rolling Alberta farmland, past canola fields turning yellow in the late summer heat and cattle grazing in pastures that stretched to the horizon. The GPS led me down a gravel road that seemed to go on forever, until I reached massive wooden gates with Maple Creek Ranch carved in rustic letters. Beyond the gates, I could see a sprawling property that took my breath away. This wasn't some rundown family farm. Rolling hills dotted with clusters of maple trees led to a main house that looked like something from a magazine. Barns and outbuildings scattered across the landscape, all freshly painted and maintained. The main house was a masterpiece. 2 stories of log and stone, with a wraparound porch that faced the Rockies in the distance. Linda would have loved this place. Hell, she would have painted it 100 times, capturing every angle in different light. My key turned smoothly in the front door lock. Inside, I found myself in a great room with cathedral ceiling and a stone fireplace big enough to roast a whole deer. Native rugs covered polished hardwood floors, and Western art hung on the walls. But what stopped me cold were the paintings. Horses, dozens of them. Not just any horses, but the exact breeds Linda used to sketch from memory when we were young and broke and dreaming of better days. Her childhood favorites. Arabian stallions with flowing manes, quarter horses with muscled haunches. Framed photographs of magnificent animals covered the walls like a gallery dedicated to everything Linda had loved and lost. On the desk by the window sat a laptop with a note attached, for Gary. Password, Linda Forever 58. The screen came to life, opening to a folder labeled Watch This First. Inside was a video file dated 2 weeks ago, just days before Carl's heart attack. Carl appeared on screen, looking healthier than I'd seen him in years. He was sitting in this very room, the fireplace crackling behind him, evening light streaming through the windows. Hey, little brother, if you're watching this, then the doctors were right about my ticker. He smiled that crooked grin I remembered from when we were kids building forts in the backyard. I've got about 365 videos here, one for every day of your first year without me. Figured you might need some company while you figure things out. I had to pause the video. Carl had always been the smart one, the planner, but this level of foresight was something else entirely. 3 years of preparation for a conversation we'd never have in person. I know you're mad about the secrets, he continued when I pressed play again. But I had my reasons. 3 years ago, I got the same heart condition that killed Dad. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. The doctors gave me 2 to 5 years. I chose not to tell you because I didn't want pity. I wanted to finish something important first. The camera panned to show him walking to a window overlooking endless pastures where horses grazed in the golden afternoon light. Linda always said this place was paradise on earth. Said someday she'd come back and paint every sunset from that hill. He pointed toward a ridge in the distance where an easel and painter's stool sat waiting. I made sure she could, even if she's not here to see it. The sound of gravel crunching outside pulled me from the video through the window. I watched a black Mercedes pull up behind my dusty pickup truck. 3 figures emerged, and even at a distance I recognized them. Alan in his $1,000 suit, Steve with his perfectly styled hair, and a third man I didn't know, wearing the kind of clothes that screamed corporate executive. They approached the house with the confidence of men who owned everything they stepped on. I quickly closed the laptop and went to meet them on the porch, my construction boots echoing on the wooden planks. Gary, Alan nodded, his lawyer smile in full force. The same smile he'd worn when he explained why I couldn't afford to fight Dad's will 20 years ago. We need to talk about what? About this fantasy Carl was living in his final years, Steve said, adjusting his designer glasses. Buying property he couldn't afford, making decisions that don't make financial sense for someone in his condition. The third man stepped forward, extending a manicured hand. I'm Tyler Wells from Northern Extraction. Your brothers have been consulting with us about the mineral rights situation. So they'd already been making deals behind my back. Typical. They probably had contracts drafted before Carl was even cold in the ground. Consulting about what, exactly? A reasonable settlement, Alan said, pulling out a leather portfolio thick with documents. Carl's purchase was irregular. The property changed hands multiple times before he acquired it. There are questions about clear title. We're prepared to offer a fair division that avoids lengthy litigation. 1/3 to you, 2/3 split between Steve and me. Everyone wins. I looked at my brothers, half-brothers, technically from Dad's first marriage. They'd always made sure I knew I was the outsider, the product of his second family. The son who chose dirt and concrete over law school and business degrees, and if I say no, Steve's smile turned cold, the same expression he'd worn when he'd convinced Mom to put her life savings into one of his investment schemes that went belly up 6 months later. Then things get complicated, legal challenges, expensive litigation, questions about Carl's mental state when he made these purchases. Did you know he was spending over $1 million on renovations for a woman who'd been dead for 2 years? That hit me in the gut. They were going to make Linda's memory part of their attack, turn Carl's love into evidence of incompetence. A truck rumbled up the driveway, and I felt a surge of relief. Ryan Torres climbed out, a weathered man in his 60s wearing work clothes and a Calgary Flames cap. His hands were scarred from decades of honest work, and his eyes held the kind of steady intelligence you only found in people who'd earned their knowledge the hard way. Everything all right, Mr. Matthews? Ryan asked, eyeing my brothers with the suspicion of someone who'd dealt with their type before. Heard voices carrying from the main pasture. Ryan manages the ranch, I explained, has for 3 years. We'll be reviewing all staff appointments, Alan said dismissively, not even looking at Ryan. This property needs professional management, not some local handyman playing cowboy. Ryan's jaw tightened, and I saw his fists clench slightly. The man had probably forgotten more about ranching than Alan would ever know, but my brother was treating him like hired help. Your brother Carl hired me personally, Ryan said, his voice steady but carrying an edge. Made me promise to look after this place and Gary if anything happened. Gave me his word, and I gave him mine. Promises to dead men aren't legally binding. Steve said with a dismissive wave, I'd heard enough. The disrespect for Carl's memory, the casual dismissal of Ryan's loyalty, the assumption that I'd roll over like I had when we were kids, it all crystallized into something cold and hard in my chest. I think you boys should leave. I need time to process all this. You're making a mistake, Alan warned, his lawyer persona dropping to reveal something uglier underneath. We're offering you a generous settlement. Fight us, and you'll get nothing but legal bills that'll bankrupt you. We have resources, Gary, connections. You're just a construction worker who got lucky. Tyler Wells cleared his throat uncomfortably, clearly sensing the family tension. Perhaps we should reconvene when everyone's had time to consider. There's nothing to consider, I said. This is my property. If you want it, you'll have to take it legal and proper. After they left, Ryan and I walked the property in silence for a while. 6 horses grazed in the main pasture, their coats gleaming in the afternoon sun. The stables were immaculate, with a tack room that looked like something from a magazine. Every fence post was straight, every gate hung perfectly. This was a working ranch maintained by someone who took pride in his craft. Your brother spent 3 years getting every detail right. Ryan said as we leaned against the fence, watching the horses. Drove up from Calgary every month, supervising everything personally. Never delegated a decision if he could make it himself. Had architects, contractors, even brought in specialists from Montana to design the stables. Did he ever mention why he kept it secret from me? Ryan was quiet for a long moment, working a piece of grass between his teeth. Said his brothers would come circling like buzzards, if they knew. Guess he was right about that. He paused, studying my face, but there was more to it. He felt guilty about how he'd treated you after Linda died. Said he'd been a real bastard when you needed family most. That hit close to home. After Linda's funeral, when I was drowning in grief and medical bills, Carl had been all business, cold comfort and practical advice about moving on. I'd needed a brother, but he'd given me a financial planner. He loved her too, you know, Ryan continued, in his way. Used to say she was the only person who ever made you truly happy. That's why all this he gestured around the ranch, it wasn't just about the property. It was about keeping a promise he never got to make while she was alive. That evening, I opened the laptop again. Carl's second video was waiting, dated the day after the first. If Alan and Steve showed up today, then you've met the buzzards, he said with a bitter laugh. They'll try everything to take this place from you. Legal challenges, emotional manipulation, whatever it takes. But Gary, I've got something they don't know about. The video switched to show Carl walking through what looked like an underground room filled with filing cabinets and maps. The walls were concrete, lit by fluorescent fixtures that gave everything a harsh, business-like appearance. Remember the old root cellar behind the main barn? I had it expanded into something more useful. Everything you need to fight them is down there. 3 years of preparation, little brother. They think they're dealing with a grieving widow. Sorry, widower. They have no idea what's coming. I found the hidden entrance exactly where he described, concealed behind hay bales in the barn. The wooden steps led down to a concrete bunker that would have made any military engineer proud. File cabinets lined the walls, labeled with dates and topics. A desk held computer equipment and surveying tools. Maps covered one entire wall, showing not just Maple Creek Ranch, but surrounding properties for miles in every direction. The first file I opened contained years of documentation about Alan and Steve's business dealings. Tax returns with creative deductions. Client funds moved through suspicious channels. Enough evidence to destroy their professional reputations if it ever came to light. Carl had been thorough, meticulous, gathering ammunition for a war he'd hoped would never come. But the real revelation was a geological survey showing lithium deposits far more extensive than anyone realized. The preliminary reports that had attracted the energy companies showed significant reserves under the eastern section of the property. But Carl's private surveys, conducted by 3 independent teams sworn to secrecy, revealed something else entirely. The main deposit wasn't where everyone thought it was. It was under the western section of the property, worthless scrubland, that looked like nothing but rocks and sagebrush. Land so unappealing that Alan and Steve hadn't even mentioned it in their settlement offer. According to the reports, the ranch wasn't worth $15 million. It was worth closer to $25 million, maybe 30 if extraction proved easier than expected. And my brothers had just offered to generously let me keep 1/3 of what they thought was there, while planning to exclude the most valuable section entirely. My phone buzzed with a text from my daughter Melissa in Minneapolis. Dad, Uncle Alan called. Says we need to meet about Uncle Carl's estate. He's flying in tomorrow with Uncle Steve. They want to help sort everything out. The bastards were going after Melissa now. At 28, she was smart but trusting, with Linda's kind heart and my stubborn streak. She'd grown up hearing stories about her successful uncles, the lawyers and financiers who'd made something of themselves while her dad stayed in construction. They'd play the family card, make promises about shared wealth and taking care of their niece. I called her immediately. Mel, don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. These men aren't our friends. Dad, they're family. Her voice carried that patient tone she used when she thought I was being unreasonable. Uncle Alan says there's enough money for everyone if we just work together. He mentioned something about Uncle Carl not being well toward the end, making decisions that don't make sense. Honey, trust me on this. Your Uncle Carl left me some information about these guys. They're not what they seem. What kind of information? I looked around the bunker, at the files full of evidence, the maps showing mineral deposits worth millions, the kind that changes everything. Just promise me you won't commit to anything until I can explain. The next morning, I was ready when they arrived. This time they brought reinforcements, lawyers from both their firms, Tyler Wells from Northern Extraction, and Melissa, who climbed out of Alan's Mercedes looking confused but hopeful. She hugged me, then stepped back uncertainly. The girl who used to climb on my shoulders and make me read the same bedtime story 5 times was now a young woman caught between loyalty to her father and the promise of easy money from uncles she barely knew. Dad. She squeezed my hands. Uncle Alan's been explaining the situation. He says Uncle Carl was sick and not thinking clearly toward the end. That this whole ranch thing was some kind of grief project that got out of hand. I led them into the great room where I'd arranged copies of Carl's documentation on the dining table. Legal papers, geological surveys, financial records, everything laid out like evidence in a courtroom. The laptop sat open, ready to play Carl's videos. Before we talk about anything else, I think you should see what your Uncle Carl really left behind. I handed Alan the geological survey showing the true extent of the lithium deposits. His confident expression flickered as he scanned the technical language and realized what he was looking at. These surveys are incomplete, he said quickly, but I could see the wheels turning behind his eyes. Northern Extraction has better data, actually, I interrupted. I spoke to Western Plains Energy yesterday. Tyler's competition. They're very interested in the complete picture. I pressed play on the laptop, and Carl's voice filled the room like a ghost at his own wake. Gary, if you're playing this video for the buzzards, then they've taken the bait. The western section they're so eager to exclude from any settlement contains 80% of the lithium. They don't know because I paid the survey teams to keep quiet. Steve's face went white as he processed the implications. Tyler Wells shifted uncomfortably, clearly realizing he'd been brought into a family war based on incomplete information. Melissa looked from her uncles to me, confusion replacing the trust in her expression. There's more, Carl continued from the laptop screen, his voice carrying the authority of a man who'd planned for every contingency. Alan's been moving client funds through offshore accounts for years. Steve's been skimming fees from pension funds he manages. I've documented everything. Use it if you have to, but try negotiation first. Even buzzards can be reasonable when they realize the carry-on isn't as defenseless as they thought. The silence stretched until Melissa finally spoke, her voice small and uncertain. Uncle Alan, is that true? Alan's lawyer mask finally cracked, revealing something desperate underneath. These are family matters, complicated business dealings that your father couldn't possibly understand. The construction industry doesn't prepare someone for high-level financial strategy. I understand enough, I said quietly, standing and walking to the window that overlooked the pastures where Linda's horses grazed. I understand you tried to steal from your own brother when you were kids. I understand you're trying to steal from me now, and I understand that you're using my daughter to do it. Tyler Wells stood abruptly, briefcase in hand. I believe my company's involvement in this matter has been based on incomplete and potentially fraudulent information. If you'll excuse me, Mr. Matthews, I'll be in touch directly regarding any future discussions of mineral rights. He shot a disgusted look at Alan and Steve before walking out, leaving my brothers without their corporate ally. The meeting fell apart quickly after that. Facing exposure of their financial crimes and realizing they'd been completely outmaneuvered, my brothers retreated with threats of future legal action that we all knew were empty. They'd come expecting to intimidate a grief-stricken construction worker. Instead, they'd walked into a trap 3 years in the making. Melissa stayed behind, tears in her eyes as she watched her uncle's Mercedes disappear down the gravel driveway. Dad, I'm sorry. They made it sound like you were being unreasonable. Like Uncle Carl had lost his mind and you were taking advantage. They're good at that, sweetheart. It's what they do. I pulled her into a hug, breathing in the scent of her shampoo and remembering when she was small enough to carry on my shoulders. Your mom always said the hardest part about being an adult was learning that some people will lie to your face and smile while they do it. What are you going to do with all this? She gestured around the ranch, taking in the perfectly maintained buildings, the expensive furniture, the art that lined the walls like a museum of Linda's dreams. I thought about Linda, about the dreams she'd shared during our 25 years of marriage, the horses she'd wanted to raise, the art studio she'd planned to build when we retired, the sunset painting she'd never had time to finish. I'm going to finish what your Uncle Carl started. Honor your mother's memory, maybe learn to paint those sunsets she always loved. 3 months later, I sold the mineral rights to Western Plains Energy for $28 million. The contract included strict environmental protections, a restoration fund for when the mining was complete, and a guarantee that the surface rights would remain with me. The ranch would stay a ranch, not become an industrial site. I kept the main house, the stables, and the art studio Carl had built in the East Wing. It was exactly as Linda would have designed it, north-facing windows for perfect light, professional-grade easels, and walls lined with her favorite art books. On the easel sat an unfinished watercolor of prairie wildflowers, her last painting before cancer took her strength away. My brothers got nothing, except the knowledge that their scheme had failed. They'd tried to manipulate family grief for personal gain and lost everything in the process. The last I heard, Alan was facing investigation by the Law Society of British Columbia, and Steve had quietly resigned from his investment firm. Melissa visits every few weeks now, sometimes bringing her fiancé, Jake. She's learning to ride on one of Linda's horses, a gentle mare named Sunset, who seems to understand that patience is required. We talk about her mother while we watch the horses graze in the evening light, and I tell her stories about the woman who taught me that love isn't something you fall into. It's something you build, day by day, choice by choice. Carl's daily videos continued for exactly 1 year, 365 messages from beyond the grave, each one revealing another layer of his planning, another piece of wisdom about family, loyalty, and the difference between blood relations and true kinship. He talked about business strategy and emotional healing, about the importance of finishing what you start, and the courage to begin something new. The last video was simple. Carl sitting in the great room, looking directly into the camera with the setting sun painting everything gold behind him. Gary, if you made it this far, then you did what I hoped you'd do. You fought for what mattered and won. Linda would be proud. Hell, I'm proud. The ranch is yours now. Make new memories there, better ones than we had as kids. 6 months after that final video, I found myself standing at the easel in Linda's studio, brush in hand, trying to capture the way morning light touched the mountains. The painting was terrible. I had no talent for it, but something about the act itself felt like prayer, like conversation with someone just out of sight. Melissa found me there one Sunday morning, paint on my shirt and frustration on my face. It's supposed to be therapeutic, I grumbled, pointing at the muddy mess I'd created. She laughed, the sound bright and clear in the morning air. Mom always said the point wasn't to be good at it, the point was to pay attention, to really see what's in front of you. I still watch that final message from Carl sometimes, usually on Sunday evenings when the light slants across the prairie just the way Linda used to paint it. Carl was right about a lot of things, but he was especially right about this. Family isn't about blood, it's about who stands with you when everything falls apart. The Forbidden Ranch became my sanctuary. Carl's final gift to his little brother, who never quite measured up in anyone's eyes but his wife's. Now it's where I honor Linda's memory, where I'm learning that 58 isn't too late for a new beginning, and where I'm discovering that sometimes the best revenge is just living well. Sometimes the greatest gifts come disguised as secrets, and the deepest love is expressed through sacrifice we never see until it's too late. Real family isn't determined by shared blood, but by who fights to protect your dreams even when you're no longer there to defend them yourself.